March 17, 1941. 0340 hours. Deep in the ink-black North Atlantic, 61 degrees north, 11 degrees 48 minutes west, waves crash like thunder against the hull of U-99, a sleek Type 7B submarine slicing through the frigid depths. The air inside is thick, heavy with the metallic tang of sweat and diesel, the low hum of engines vibrating through every man's bones. Captain Otto Kretschmer, eyes sharp as a predator's in the dim red glow of the control room, leans over the periscope, his breath steady, heart pounding with the thrill of the hunt. Convoy HX-112 stretches out before him like a herd of oblivious prey. Merchant ships laden with war supplies chugging toward Britain, their silhouettes barely visible under the moonless sky. You can almost feel the tension coiling in that cramped steel tube, 40 men crammed together, each one a cog in Kretschmer's deadly machine. He's the ace of aces, the silent Otto, with 38 ships already sent to the bottom, over 244,000 tons of Allied steel and cargo twisted into ocean graves. His wolfpack tactics have turned the Atlantic into a graveyard, U-boats lurking like shadows, striking without mercy. Tonight, it's no different. U-99 has already claimed victims from this convoy. The tanker Venetia, gutted by torpedoes hours earlier, her oil slick spreading like blood in the water. The crew whispers in hushed German, grins flashing in the gloom. They're invincible, ghosts of the deep. But then, a faint ping echoes through the hull. Distant at first, like a pebble tapping glass. Kretschmer freezes. His hydrophone operator, pale-faced under his headset, bolts upright. "Contact, Herr Collot. ASDIC signal, bearing 210 degrees, closing fast." The word hangs in the air. ASDIC, that cursed British invention, the underwater echo that hunts them like a bloodhound. The men exchange glances, pulses quickening. They've heard rumors of this sonar devilry, but dismissed it as Allied bluff, a desperate gadget to scare off the Kriegsmarine's finest. After all, U-99 has evaded it before, slipping through nets like smoke. The pings grow louder, sharper, bouncing off the submarine's skin with unnatural precision. Boom! The first depth charge detonates overhead, a muffled roar that shakes the boat like a giant's fist. Lights flicker, pipes groan under the pressure. "Dive deeper, full ahead," Kretschmer barks, his voice calm but edged with steel. The deck tilts as U-99 plunges towards 700 feet, far beyond her tested limits, the hull creaking in protest, like bones about to snap. Water sprays from a ruptured valve, soaking the crew as they scramble to seal it. You imagine the terror, the crushing dark outside, the ocean pressing in, ready to claim them. Another explosion rocks the boat, closer this time. Shrapnel rattles against the outer hull. The destroyers above, HMS Walker and HMS Vanoc, though the crew doesn't know their names yet, circle like sharks, their ASDIC beams painting U-99 in invisible light. No more hiding in the vast Atlantic void. The hunters have become the hunted. Kretschmer's mind races. How did they pinpoint us so exactly? The sonar's accuracy defies belief, turning their stealthy domain into a kill zone. One crewman, a young torpedo-man from Bremen, clutches his station, whispering prayers as the boat shudders. It's impossible. They can't see us down here. But they can. The pings come relentlessly now, guiding the depth charges with deadly aim. U-99 twists and turns, evading one barrage, only to meet another. Batteries drain, air grows stale with fear sweat and carbon dioxide. Kretschmer, ever the tactician, orders silent running. No engines, no noise, just drifting in the abyss. The men hold their breath, hearts thumping like war drums. Minutes stretch to eternity. Is this the end for the wolfpack's king? And then a revelation hits Kretschmer like a torpedo. This isn't luck. This ASDIC, it's evolved, refined into a weapon that strips away their invisibility, from arrogance to dread in a heartbeat. But as the hull buckles under another blast, a desperate plan forms. Surface, fight, or die in the deep.
Hours bleed into the abyss. The clock on the bulkhead ticks past 0600, but time means nothing in this steel coffin drifting silent at 200 meters. The air is poison now, thick, sour, laced with the bite of battery acid and the metallic reek of fear. Men slump at their stations, eyes bloodshot, lips cracked from shallow breaths. No one speaks above a whisper. Even the bilge pumps are silenced. U-99 hangs motionless, a ghost trying to outweight the living. Above, the destroyers prowl. You can hear them through the hull, the rhythmic thump-thump of propellers, the sinister sweep of ASDIC pings painting the water with sound. Each ping is a brushstroke on a canvas only the British can see. Walker and Vanek take turns, one holding contact while the other reloads depth charges. Pattern after pattern rains down. Woolworth bombs, the crews called them mockingly, but down here each explosion is a hammer blow from God. Kretschmer stands motionless in the control room, coat unbuttoned, cap pushed back, staring at the depth gauge as if willing it to drop further. His mind turns like the periscope he no longer dares raise. This isn't the clumsy hedgehog mortar or the old predictable ASDIC sets from 1939. This is something new, refined, relentless. The echoes return too clean, too fast. The British have solved the refraction problem, compensated for temperature layers. They can track a U-boat through thermoclines now. The ocean is no longer a cloak, it's glass. A young lieutenant, Horst Elf, wipes sweat from his brow and risks a question. Herr Kaleo, could we blow tanks and make a run on the surface, guns against their guns? Kretschmer's eyes flick to him, cold, calculating. And give them silhouette and speed? No. We wait. We endure. But even as he says it, doubt flickers. Endurance has limits. The CO2 scrubbers are failing. Men are starting to sway. Then it happens again. A new pattern, tighter, more deliberate. The pings converge like fingers closing into a fist. The first charge detonates just 30 meters astern. The blast lifts U-99 bodily, slamming men to the deck. Lights shatter. A pressure gauge explodes in a shower of glass. Water jets from a split seam in the forward torpedo room. Damage report, Kretschmer snaps, voice cutting through the groans. The chief engineer, Hans Rechnagel, staggers back, face ashen. Hull valve ruptured, Herr Kaleo. We're taking water forward. Pumps can't keep up on silent running. The boat is dying, slowly, inevitably. Kretschmer feels it in his gut. The same instinct that made him the highest-scoring U-boat commander in history, now screaming that the old rules are gone. The Atlantic, once their hunting ground, has turned predator. And this ASDIC, this invisible eye, it doesn't tire, doesn't fear, doesn't miss. Another barrage, closer. The hull screams. A battery cell cracks, venting chlorine gas that burns the lungs. Men cough into rags, eyes streaming. One rating collapses, foaming at the mouth. Kretschmer makes the call he's dreaded for 6 hours. Blow all tanks, emergency surface, battle stations. Alarms wail, compressed air roars into the ballast tanks. U-99 lurches upward like a cork, breaking the surface in a cascade of white water under a gray dawn sky. Guns crew scramble topside, drenched, half-blinded by daylight they haven't seen in days. The 88mm deck gun swings toward the nearest destroyer, HMS Walker, now just 2,000 meters away, already turning, signal lamps flashing fury. But as the first shell leaves the barrel, Kretschmer looks across the wave tops and sees not one destroyer, but 4. Vanek closing from starboard, 2 more escorts racing in from the convoy's flank. The trap was perfect. The ASDIC never lost them, not once. The realization hits him like ice water. They were never evading. They were being herded.
Dawn breaks cold and merciless over the North Atlantic. Salt spray lashes the conning tower as U-99 rolls heavily in the swells, her decks awash with green water. The 88mm gun fires once, twice. Splashes erupt short of HMS Walker. Then a British 4-inch shell screams in, exploding against the forward casing in a shower of steel splinters. Men scream. The gun crew scatters, blood mixing with seawater. Another hit punches through the conning tower, shredding the anti-aircraft mount. Kretschmer ducks as shrapnel winds past his head, warm fragments embedding in his coat. He doesn't need to give the order. The chief engineer already has the vents open. U-99 begins to settle by the bow, listing hard to port. "Abandon ship!" Kretschmer shouts, voice carrying over the chaos. Men pour up from below, some wounded, dragging comrades toward the casing. Life rafts splash into the water. The black Kriegsmarine ensign still flies defiant from the periscope standard, but only for moments. A final shell severs the halyard, and it flutters into the sea. You watch from the bridge wing as the destroyers close in, guns trained but silent now. Walker lowers a whaler. British sailors in steel helmets row through the debris, oil slicks, floating hammocks, bodies face down in the swells. They haul survivors aboard with practiced efficiency, no hatred in their movements, just grim duty. Kretschmer is among the last to leave, stepping off the sloping deck as U-99's bow rears up, then slides stern first into the depths with a final hiss of escaping air. 40 men saved, 3 dead. One of the most feared U-boats in the fleet, gone in minutes. The British sailors wrap the Germans in blankets, offer cigarettes. Kretschmer, soaked and shivering, accepts one with numb fingers. He looks up at the towering gray side of HMS Walker, then across to Vanek and the distant silhouettes of the convoy steaming on unscathed. For the first time in years, he feels small. The ocean that was once his kingdom now belongs to them. Transferred later that day to the destroyer HMS Broadsword for the voyage to Scapa Flow, the prisoners are herded below. The British crew watches them with wary curiosity, no gloating, just quiet satisfaction. A young able seaman offers a mug of tea, thick with condensed milk. Kretschmer drinks, the sweetness foreign on his tongue after months of ersatz coffee. Then the questions start. Casual at first. "How did you find us so fast?" a British lieutenant asks through an interpreter. "That bloody ping thing of yours, it's the devil." The lieutenant smiles faintly. ASDIC, and it's only getting better. Below decks that night, as the destroyer plows toward Scotland, Kretschmer sits with his officers in a guarded compartment. They speak in low voices, replaying the hunt, the precision, the way the charges walked right up to them no matter how they turned. "It's not possible," Elf mutters again. "Sound shouldn't travel that clean through layers." But it did, and it will again. Days later, after interrogation in London, the crew of U-99 is loaded onto a train bound for a POW camp in Canada. As the ship crosses the Atlantic, this time on the surface, under guard, Kretschmer stares out at the endless horizon. The same ocean, different masters. The hunters have become the hunted, not just for one boat, but for the entire U-boat arm. A quiet dread settles in his chest. But nothing prepares him for what comes next. When the train finally pulls into Bowmanville, Ontario, under a crisp North American sun, something utterly impossible awaits. Spring 1941. Bowmanville Camp 30, Ontario, Canada. The train screeches to a halt on a siding surrounded by pine forests and fresh snow still clinging to the shadows. Otto Kretschmer steps down first, flanked by guards, his uniform salt-stained and torn, the Iron Cross at his throat the only reminder of who he once was. The other survivors of U-99 follow in ragged columns, 40 ghosts in gray, blinking against the bright northern light. Barbed wire glints in the sun, watchtowers loom, but something feels wrong. Too clean, too quiet. No mud-churned parade grounds, no snarling dogs, no propaganda posters screaming vengeance. Just neat wooden barracks painted white, a baseball diamond already marked out in the dirt, Canadian soldiers in crisp uniforms nodding politely as they count the new arrivals. You can picture Kretschmer's frown deepening as the gates swing shut behind them. He expects brutality, the kind whispered about in Kriegsmarine mess halls, starvation, beatings, the slow grind of defeat. Instead, a Red Cross representative greets them in flawless German, hands out cigarettes, and directs them toward the mess hall. The smell hits first: real coffee, roasting meat, fresh bread, not the acrid ersatz brew or sawdust loaves they've lived on for years. Inside the hall, long tables are already set. Canadian NCOs serve the food themselves: thick slices of beef, mashed potatoes swimming in gravy, green beans, apple pie still warm from the oven. And then the unthinkable: bowls of vanilla ice cream, heaped high, glistening under electric lights. Beside each bowl, a chilled bottle of Coca-Cola, beads of condensation running down the glass. The Germans freeze in the doorway. Horst Elfe actually laughs, a short, disbelieving bark. This is a trick, propaganda. But the Canadian sergeant just smiles and gestures, "Eat." Kretschmer sits slowly, watching his men. One young machinist from Hamburg lifts a spoonful of ice cream, tastes it, and his eyes widen like a child's. Another cracks open the Coke, the hiss, the fizz, the sweet burn down the throat. Murmurs ripple through the tables in German: "Unmöglich," impossible. Kretschmer eats mechanically at first, then slower, savoring. The cold sweetness of the ice cream, the caramel bite of the cola, luxuries he hasn't tasted since before the war. He looks around at his crew, hardened submariners, men who have sent thousands to watery graves, now sitting in stunned silence, cheeks bulging like schoolboys. No one speaks of the Reich, of victory, of duty, just the food, just this moment. Later that evening, during the first camp assembly, the commandant addresses them through an interpreter. Fair treatment, Geneva Convention, work details optional, mail from home, even a camp orchestra forming. Kretschmer listens stone-faced, but inside something shifts. These people aren't exhausted, aren't rationed to the bone. Their uniforms are new, their boots polished, their bellies full. The ice cream wasn't a one-off show. It arrives every Sunday. Coca-Cola appears twice a week. That night, lying on a real mattress with clean sheets, Kretschmer stares at the barrack ceiling. The realization creeps in like cold seawater through a cracked hull. America hasn't even fully entered the war yet, and already her abundance spills over into Canada, into prison camps, into the mouths of her enemies. If this is how they treat captured U-boat crews, what must their factories be like, their shipyards, their armies? He remembers the ASDIC pings, the depth charges that never missed. Precision born of plenty, technology fed by endless resources. Germany scrapes aluminum from housewives' pots, substitutes wood for steel, stretches ersatz everything to the breaking point. Here, they give ice cream to prisoners. The ace of aces closes his eyes. For the first time since 1939, doubt isn't a whisper, it's a roar. The war at sea is already lost. They just haven't admitted it yet. Summer 1942. Bowmanville Camp 30. More than a year has passed since U-99 slipped beneath the waves. Otto Kretschmer now wears civilian-style khaki fatigues issued to officers. Clean, well-fitting, almost insulting in their comfort. The camp has grown. New barracks, a theater hut, even a small library stocked with English books and German classics sent by the Red Cross. The men play soccer against Canadian Guards on weekends, share cigarettes after the games, argue over who makes better beer. But beneath the routine, the world outside keeps turning. Newspapers arrive, carefully censored, yet the gaps speak volumes. Stalingrad, El Alamein. The names filter through letters from home, through guarded conversations with new arrivals, and always the same refrain from the latest captures. The Atlantic is a slaughterhouse now. Convoys sail with air cover that never ends. U-boats vanish without a trace. Donitz's wolfpacks are being exterminated. Kretschmer notices the change in the men. The swagger is gone. New prisoners arrive wide-eyed, telling stories of radar that sees through night and fog, of escort carriers launching planes in the middle of the ocean, of hedgehogs and squids that fire salvos of depth charges no boat can dodge. One young Kaloon from U-552, barely 25, sits with Kretschmer on a bench overlooking the baseball field and whispers, "They have machines that think, Herr Korvettenkapitän. Centimetric radar. The old tricks don't work anymore." That evening, during the Sunday film screening, an American Western of all things, Kretschmer watches the projector light flicker across the faces of his crew. John Wayne storms across the screen on horseback, 6 guns blazing, while the audience laughs and cheers. But Kretschmer sees something else, the sheer scale of it. Hollywood churns out dreams like Detroit churns out tanks, while Germany rations film stock and shoots propaganda reels in black and white. America floods the world with color, sound, abundance. Later, alone in his small officer's room, he pulls out a letter smuggled past the censors by a sympathetic guard. It's from his wife, written in careful code. Food shortages worsening. Allied bombers over Hamburg every night now. The children sleep in the cellar. He reads it twice, folds it away, then walks to the window. Beyond the wire, the Canadian countryside stretches green and endless under a harvest moon. Tractors work late into the night, American-made tractors, headlights blazing, harvesting wheat that will feed armies and prisoners alike. The ice cream and Coca-Cola were just the beginning. The real shock is this: everything here works. The lights never dim, the trains run on time, the guards complain about overtime pay, not missing sons. This isn't a nation straining under blockade or bombing. It's a continent mobilized, waking up slowly but inexorably, its factories humming like distant thunder. Kretschmer lights a cigarette, Lucky Strike, American brand, bought legally from the camp canteen, and exhales into the cool night air. He thinks of Donitz's proud boasts in 1941, the U-boat arm will strangle Britain. He thinks of the ASDIC pings that hunted him like prey. He thinks of the shipyards he has never seen, but now can imagine. Rivers of steel, thousands of riveters, ships sliding into water every week. For the first time, the man who once believed absolutely in final victory allows the thought to form fully, without resistance. Germany cannot win this war. Not against this. Not against an enemy who feeds its prisoners better than the Reich feeds its own people. Not against an industrial giant that treats captivity like a vacation camp while its bombers darken German skies. The ace of aces stubs out his cigarette and stares into the dark. Somewhere across the ocean, his comrades are still dying in iron coffins, chasing a miracle that will never come. And in the quiet of a Canadian night, Otto Kretschmer, holder of the Knight Cross with oak leaves and swords, understands that the real battle was lost long before the first torpedo left its tube. The hunters never stood a chance.